Hello everybody, it's AlienButlerBlunders and welcome back to a brand new figure and toy review today. I've had a break from my channel for a while, so it's great to be able to produce some more videos for you. I wanted to share with you a brilliant new figure I've picked up. It's by Bandai, Japanese toy company. It's part of their Movie Monster series. It's a Showa era Gamera from the 1960s. So Gamera is a character um, who in my mind is secondary to Godzilla in the sense that Godzilla is extremely well known and has kind of global appeal, whereas Gamera is that degree more niche than Godzilla. A lot of people don't know who Gamera is or what he is, but a he's an interesting reinterpretation of the character. So whereas instead of like a radioactive nuclear dinosaur, who's sometimes a villain, sometimes a hero, we have a bizarre fire-eating, uh, fire-consuming giant turtle. I don't think he's explicitly radioactive in the same way Godzilla is, but it's an interesting reimagining of movie monsters, because whereas with Godzilla, a lot of the monsters are kind of dinosaurs and robots and things. Like Rodan is quite clearly a pterosaur, like a dinosaur. Whereas with Gamera, they all tend to be based on animals, like actual animals. Like some of them are very like chameleon-like and lizard-like. Like that's a poster of Gamera versus Barugon, and Barugon's pretty much just a giant chameleon with superpowers, like he can breathe ice. Um, and that's what it is. There are quite a few differences between Godzilla and Gamera when you get into it, but broadly speaking, it's basically the same thing. It's about a giant reptilian monster that destroys cities. If you are getting to Gamera for the first time, I would recommend trying out the Heisei films from the 90s. My favorite Heisei Gamera film was the third one, Revenge of Iris. It's up to you. They do market Gamera as more of a children's hero, and he has a special connection to children that Godzilla doesn't really have. And a lot of the films, especially the show ones in the 60s, are very kind of heavy with children's drama and children main characters, whereas Godzilla is a bit more hesitant to do that. Um, that in itself may make it more appealing for young children, or may make it more exclusionary for older fans. I was less interested in the children's storylines than the adult storylines. Um, so that's why my favorite film was the second one, Gamera versus Barugon, because that was mainly um, about human drama. But anyway, that's my little rant about Gamera films. That's my little intro to him, and now we'll talk about the figure. So this guy is like all Bandai Movie Monster series figures. He is quite a hollow plastic. You can tell he is quite lightweight. That's probably the most off-putting thing about Bandai figures, that they do have this quality where they seem like it's quite a cheap plastic, but that's simply because it's hollow. It's not a cheap plastic. It's actually very well-made, durable vinyl. The sculpting is fantastic. This is a brilliant vision of the character. The paint application is minimal, with just on the eyes, mouth, and claws. But the sculpting work is fantastic. And Gamera is an interesting character because from the front you can't really get an impression of his shell, whereas from the back you get a lot more an impression of texture. With the Showa Gamera, he kind of looks like a pine cone if you put him that way. Whereas with the later Gamera, Heisei, he's greener. He looks more like a turtle, but this is a slightly stylized impression of him. And just like Godzilla, just like the retro Godzilla, there I've got a NECA Godzilla from King Kong versus Godzilla. They do go for a grey colour with the older films. I don't mind that. I think that grey is quite a good colour to go for monsters. Sometimes less is more. It's up to you really what your preference is, but giant monsters often have quite bland colours. But that Godzilla maybe is an exception with later ones with the giant kind of spikes on his back. This is Millennium Godzilla. But yeah, anyway, he's great. Texture's really nice. It almost looks like abs. There's really minimal articulation, but that's fine. Some on the legs. The tail does move a little bit as well, which is nice. The tag is in Japanese. It's from the style of the first film, which is really going for very dark aesthetic visually, and has some very dark moments in it. And the tag, I have blue tacked this tag myself, but it's in Japanese there. I can't speak Japanese, so whatever that says, I don't know. It would be nice if it kind of indicated what year this figure came out, because I think 23 might indicate it's a brand new figure, as in it came out in 2023, and I'm recording this in 2024, so it might be a brand new figure. I know this is the second version of Gamera they've done, and from what I've seen, it's better than their first Showa Gamera. It's just really nice to have a great retro monster, and he's just great. Textures in the shell's really nice. He's just brilliant. He sizes up really well with Godzilla, and has quite a great presence, really. The only downside I'd say to this figure is he does topple over quite easily. So just mind yourself for that. I've had this guy fall off the shelf a couple of times. But the thing about Showa Gamera is he does walk a lot quadrupedally. So he does walk quite a lot on 4 legs. And it's an aspect of his design and his character that when he's on back legs, he does often get knocked over onto the back of his shell a lot. Whereas Godzilla is almost always just on his back legs. It's bipedal. But yeah, do check Gamera out, especially if you're in the UK right now. Pretty much all of the movies are on Amazon Prime, as I've said, whereas we have virtually no Godzilla movies in the UK. Gamera rocks. Try it out if you're not used to it. If you're a newbie to the kaiju genre, that's a place I'd recommend starting with with either the very first Gamera or its sequel, Gamera versus Barugon, which is the poster there, which is my favourite one, or the 90s Heisei ones. Okay. So that concludes this video today. Thank you for watching today, and keep your eyes and ears open. I'm producing new stuff as often as I can. So great, thanks for watching today, and I'll see you again.